Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another of Spark's investor webinars, where we have two very high caliber businesses presenting to you today. They're both medtech companies, and I'll introduce them to you in a second. But we are very delighted that they are presenting to us today. But before I do that quick introduction, I would like to give you a quick overview of Spark and the success that we've had over the last year or so. 2024 was our best year ever. We had 15 successful campaigns on the platform, and we had an extremely busy final quarter of the year, as you may have seen, with a number of very high caliber businesses that were raising funds then. We are very highly selective of the companies that go onto the platform, as many of you know, and we only show you the best. So we reject probably about 8 or 9 out of every 10 companies that we have on the platform. So really, you are only seeing the cream of the cream, and that is demonstrated today with the two that we actually have presenting today. These are both brilliant investment opportunities. So we have today Atxa Therapeutics and we have Digital Gait Labs. Both are EIS qualifying companies. And just to reiterate what EIS is a tax benefit that the government kindly gives to early stage investors for investing into these qualifying companies, where you get up to 50% back on the investment that you put in. So if you put in an investment of €5,000, for example, you're getting €2,500 back of that in a tax rebate, which makes it very, very compelling for you as a private investor into these. Going back to the companies, both companies have multiple PhDs throughout their team, and very high qualified personnel in their ranks all around anyway. So just before I go into do the introduction into Atxa, just a quick housekeeping. We will be finishing by 2 o'clock today, so you will be back in time to start your afternoon's work. And on the Q&A, so there'll be a 12-minute presentation, and then there'll be a 12-minute Q&A for each of the companies. If you would like to ask a question, please put your question into the Q&A box, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen there, hopefully, and we will, Fergal and I will ask those questions directly to the promoters themselves. So first up is Atxa. So perhaps I can ask both Therese and Catherine to switch on your cameras, please. Thank you very much. You're very welcome. A quick overview of Atxa. Atxa was founded in 2015. And it is a clinical stage pharmaceutical company developing life-changing treatments for cardiopulmonary or heart and lung diseases. Atxa was on the Spark website raising funds this time last year, or a little earlier on, 15 months ago, and Spark was part of a 2.7 million raise at that stage. They are now targeting 750,000 and to help them bring them onto their phase 2 clinical trials. So I'd like to introduce you to, first of all, Professor Therese Kinser. Therese is CEO, CSO, and Director of Atxa, and is a leading expert in prostanoid biology and disease mechanisms with over 125 scientific publications to her name. She is inventor on numerous patents within Atxa, and over the last number of years has been given many awards, one of which was the Biochemical Society Gold Medal in 2008, the RIA Gold Medal in 2000, and is an elected member of the Royal Irish Academy. And this time last year, she also received another award, which was the Nova UCD Innovation Award for her academic and entrepreneurial achievements. More of Therese in a second, but Therese, you're very welcome. And Catherine is a qualified chartered accountant with ACA and has 14 years post-qualification experience in financial planning and financial analysis roles. Wide-ranging experience across multiple industries, including telecommunications, technology, and banking and digitization. And she holds a degree in computer science from Queen's University in Belfast. You're very welcome, ladies. And welcome to the presentation. So perhaps I can ask you if you would please start your presentation, and we can get cracking into that. So share your screen, please, Therese. I will go into the background. I'll leave you to do your presentation, and we'll see you in 12 or 13 minutes.
Well, thank you, Chris. Thank you very much, Chris, for that very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. Very nice to meet you all. I am Therese Kinsella, founder and CEO of Atxa Therapeutics, as Chris mentioned, and of course, I'm joined by Catherine Martin, our head of finance. Now, for any of you new to Atxa, let us give you an overview of the business. So, based in UCD, Dublin, Atxa is a highly innovative pharma company that has developed new drugs for the treatment of a range of heart and lung diseases. Our lead drug is called NTP42 and is viewed by many key opinion leaders as having the potential to dramatically change the treatment of a condition called pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH, a really devastating heart and lung disease. Now, almost 2% of the adult population suffer from heart failure, but this figure even further rises to 5% in the over 65s. Now, aside from the obvious impact on the individual, the economic cost of heart failure is huge, running to hundreds of billions of dollars globally each year. Pulmonary arterial hypertension, or PAH, is one form of heart failure that actually begins in the lungs. As PAH is Atxa's initial target, I will use it as an example of the diseases that our drug NTP42 has the ability to treat. So more on PAH. Now, up to 500,000 people globally suffer from this condition. Without treatment, average patients die within 3 years. This can be extended to 5 to 7 years if the patient adheres to a cocktail of current PAH drugs. The problem with these drugs is that they only treat one aspect of the disease, that is the narrowing of blood vessels in the lungs, but they do not treat the heart failure, which is the ultimate cause of early death in PAH patients. They also carry severe side effects and are very badly tolerated, adding to the poor clinical outcomes in PAH patients. There is no doubt there is an urgent need for new and improved treatments for this really dreadful disease. So what's the solution? Our drug NTP42 directly inhibits a key driver of PAH in both the lungs and heart of PAH patients. This unique ability of NTP42 to block disease progression in both affected organs suggests that it may be the radical disease-modifying therapy that is needed today. And this is not just for PAH, but also for more widespread heart and lung diseases, which we would now also like to target. So, thus, the prospect of a breakthrough innovation, such as Atxa's NTP42, is generating real excitement amongst the PAH patients and their doctors. To quote Dr. Sandeep Saha, a leading PAH clinical expert based in Houston, Texas, NTP42 could become the drug of choice for these diseases. Catherine, over to you.
So as Therese was just mentioning, NTP42 has the ability to treat all PAH symptoms in both the heart and the lungs. It also has first-in-class and orphan drug status, which means the total addressable market for Atxa is the entire global spend on PAH drugs. In 2022, that market was valued at $7.3 billion, and it's going to grow to $11.5 billion by 2028. PAH is also a very expensive disease to treat. So it costs, ranges from $100,000 to $1 million annually per patient, and that's just for the drug therapies. So if we were to assume an annual NTP42 price of $45,000 per patient, that's still less than 50% of the average cost of today's top-selling PAH drugs. So importantly, that means that NTP42 is going to compete really well on price, which ensures it will capture as much of the drug sales market as possible. And where it's shown to treat other heart and lung diseases, there are many other multi-billion-dollar opportunities for NTP42, several also having blockbuster market potential. More than 17 million euros has been invested in Atxa since 2019. Enterprise Ireland, EU Horizon and EIC accelerator programs alone have provided 10 million euros through grant and equity funding. Today, Atxa has 16 granted patents protecting NTP42 and related drugs globally until 2036, with the FDA and EMA's award of orphan drug status further increasing our protection from competition. Since our last Spark fundraise, Atxa has also filed a new patent which will extend protection of NTP42 globally until 2045. So that's a truly valuable additional commercial asset. By now, NTP42 has been successfully tested in 92 healthy volunteers through a phase 1 and a more recent bridging clinical trial. It's been confirmed as safe, well tolerated, and it only needs to be taken once a day and at low doses for clinical effect in patients. Both of the successful clinical trials were carried out at the Hammersmith Medicines Research in London, who have given their resounding endorsement of Atxa's NTP42. So Atxa's focus now is on advancing NTP42 into the phase 2 clinical trials in PAH patients, which will be a major commercial milestone for us and also for our investors. Over to you, Therese.
Today, Atxa is a company in clinical development. We have already successfully completed the phase 1 clinical trials, as mentioned. In addition, since the last Spark raise, we are now well advanced in getting ready for the phase 2 trials in PAH patients. Scaled up manufacture of NTP42 has passed all quality certifications. Delivery of all forms of the drug as a powder and capsule has been achieved and validated through our second highly successful bridging clinical trial completed in 2024. The essential long-term toxicology studies is now also completed with full safety clearance on the drug. In addition to orphan drug status, positive endorsement on our phase 2 enabling work and trial plans has now also been received from both the EMA and FDA, the key drug regulators in Europe and the US. Then, with regulatory approval from both agencies, we'll be ready to start the phase 2 clinical trial in late 2025, with expected completion in 2027. Regarding Atxa's competitors, Atxa's key competitors are the major pharma companies that control the $8 billion global PH market today. They include household company names such as Johnson & Johnson, Merck, GSK, and United Therapeutics, who, by the way, are also likely to be Atxa's acquirers. Other competitors include specialty companies developing new drugs for PAH. Back to you, Catherine.
So Atxa's team is a powerful mix of our founder along with team colleagues with wide-reaching finance and biotech innovation expertise. As Chris alluded to earlier, our founder and CEO, Professor Therese Kinsler, is a leading expert in the area with several accolades to her name. She's the main inventor on each of Atxa's patents and also several at Guinness and UCD. In April of last year, since the last Spark campaign, Therese received the Nova UCD Innovation Award for her many achievements at UCD and Atxa. Our expert team is supported by a board of directors with proven experience in product commercialization, corporate strategy, clinical management, venture capital, and M&A, and as well as a track record of significant wealth creation. As I previously mentioned, over 17 million euros has been invested in Atxa by way of equity, convertible loan notes, and non-dilutive grant funding. This includes 5 million euros of grant funding, which we received from the prestigious European Innovation Council, with a further pledge of up to 15 million euros equity to fund the phase 2 clinical trial in PAH. And again, as Chris mentioned earlier, and a particular note to Spark investors, Atxa is an EIS eligible company, which means private investors can avail of a 50% tax incentive on their investment. So in this new fundraise, we're offering Spark investors the opportunity to invest in Atxa at the same share price as our previous campaign in 2023, despite the enormous achievements we've made since then. Combined with that 50% EIS tax incentive, that just represents exceptional value for Spark investors. Atxa's pre-money valuation of 40 million euros is underpinned by 2 very successful clinical trials, along with all regulatory validations of drug manufacture, quality, and toxicology testing passed, and also by our fast-growing global patent estate. So in summary, we're poised to start the phase 2 clinical trials of NTP42, which could bring benchmark licensing deals or trade sale exits amounting to 10 to 20-fold returns for our investors. The current investment raise will be used to carry out any remaining aspects of the phase 2 ready work, and it will also allow us to commission additional value-adding studies in more widespread forms of heart lung disease, which will increase Atxa's market potential. In terms of our business model, Atxa has 2 possible exit strategies likely to occur after the successful completion of the phase 2 clinical trials in PAH patients. So these include either a merger and acquisition deal, where Atxa is acquired by one of the four major pharma companies in PAH, or alternatively a licensing deal in which NTP42 is licensed to one of those four global PAH or specialist pharma companies, resulting in an upfront payment followed by milestone and royalty payments based on NTP42 sales. So just to give a benchmark of the current demand for new drugs for PAH, in 2022, Merck acquired Acceleron's sotatercept after their phase 2 clinical trial in PAH patients in a merger and acquisition deal that was worth more than $7 billion just for that drug. So I'm going to hand back over to Therese.
So why invest in Atxa Therapeutics? There are many reasons to avail of this great investment opportunity. Firstly, we're headed up by a highly qualified, industry-leading management team with global franchise building expertise. Our mission and development milestones have been validated by multi-million euro investments. The EMA and FDA have endorsed Atxa's NTP42 by granting it orphan drug status, and most recently positively reviewed our overall phase 2 trial plans. With 16 granted patents, we already have a valuable and growing global patent estate. The drug NTP42 uniquely treats both the heart and lungs in PAH patients and has huge potential to treat many other diseases, increasing market opportunities to Atxa and reaping further rewards to our investors. The existing market opportunity for PAH drugs alone is huge, worth as much as $11.5 billion by 2028. Importantly, Spark investors can buy into Atxa's opportunity at a 50% discount to professional investors thanks to EIS eligibility and at the same share price as at the last Spark raise. This truly is an exclusive opportunity to invest at low cost in a clinical stage pharma business that has global reach and ambition. Thanks for listening, and we welcome any questions you may have.
Beautifully timed, ladies. Thank you very much indeed. That was perfect. And we do have a good number of questions that have come in. So I will start off the first one. So your drug is described as a potential game changer for the treatment in this particular area. Can you explain how its unique mechanism sets it apart from other drugs that are competing for this space?
Absolutely, Chris. As I mentioned, the disease is a heart and lung disease, and so you need to treat both conditions. NTP42 is unique in its mechanism of action by treating the heart. Now, as I mentioned, also up to 2%. That's a huge percentage of us have heart failure, and much more as the figure grows to 5% in 65, and then as you get progressively older, to grow even further. And the unmet need there is the need is for drugs that can treat a heart failure. So it's a monstrous potential. So it's the way in which the drug is acting. So I hope that necessarily answers your question.
Yeah, thank you very much. Virgil.
Hi guys, I have a question just regarding the pricing and pricing strategy. So there's a number of questions here. I'm just going to put them all into one, if that's okay. So you mentioned that it's expected to be priced at around $45,000 per patient annually, which is less than 50%. Can you just explain that strategy and why you've gone that route? Might be.
Yeah, thanks, Virgil. That's a very good question. And of course, it's counterintuitive. We're pricing it less than the cost of the existing drugs. And the reason being is that the more, as you know, the cheaper something is, if it's effective, the more access you're giving to patients. Economies can't afford to buy drugs. Drugs are expensive, and that's where the decisions are made to be approved or not, to be given to the patients in your particular country or not. Atxa can price our drug lower because our cost of goods is lower. Simply, we can manufacture. It's a relatively straightforward manufacturing process and all of the rest. To get the drug from the beginning through to the actual market is relatively inexpensive. Catherine, do you have anything to add to that?
No, but just to mention an additional benefit. So as well as the cost of drugs is going to be lower, the standard PAH drugs that are currently available all need to be administered in a hospital setting. So NTP42 is unique in that the patients can take that at home. It's a capsule. They just need to take the capsule at home once a day. So that is going to cut down a lot of the cost as well, because a lot of the cost associated with the disease is, related to the hospitalization of the patients as well.
Yeah, excellent, thanks.
Okay. Question here. Whilst there are only a couple of approved therapies on the market currently, NTP42 faces big competition from GSK, J&J, and BMS, amongst others. What will set NTP42 apart from these? So we're talking about the big drug companies that are there at the moment, who've already got a kind of a mechanism by which to treat this at the moment. What sets you apart? And I think you might have mentioned this in the first question, but it'd be good to just get a little nuance there, please, if you could.
Absolutely. So it's related firstly to the unique benefit of our drug that we can address the heart failure. But second of all, then, Chris, it really relates to the fact that NTP42 does not propose to bring our drug to the market ourselves. What will happen is that the company will be acquired, such as by one of these large pharmas, and they will be well able to bring the market very effectively. And then therefore they will be we won't be competing with them. They will be the actual owners and acquirers and people who will be bringing that drug to the market.
And just to follow on that, and is that because that they will see this as a lower cost to them, and therefore they can get into the market quickly, or do they think that that's going to be just as an opportunity against one of the other big pharmaceutical companies?
Chris, if we're proven to show the benefit in the heart in the phase 2 clinical trials, they will be all looking for this drug. They will all want to bring that drug to the market, because the opportunity is very, very large, not just in PH, but also in wider conditions.
Very good. Very good.
Remaining to be proven for a phase 2 clinical trial, I might add.
Excellent. And that brings me on nicely to this question on the phase 2 clinical trials, the cost, the budget, the timeline. Maybe if you could elaborate a little bit on what the funding requirement is and the timeline on it, and any conversations you're having in order to get that completed on time and on track.
Absolutely. Thanks, Fergal. That's a big question, of course. Yes, we do have 4. Atxa, typically what happens is you bring in experts to actually run that clinical trial. So we have 4 tenders in from 4 of the leading companies that would run or conduct trials in this particular area. And they would be, and so the pricing there is about 20 million euros to fund the phase 2 clinical trial. In respect of obviously we have to get regulatory clearance to begin, and obviously we have to have the funding in place. So, but as soon as those are in place, then we can begin the trial. The trial then itself will run, will really be in 2 parts. Once the first set of patients start to get treated, we'll have to wait for about 1.5 years, which is not a long time, to see the actual data. So about 1.5 years, and then that will be from beginning to end. So it really depends on when we get going, and then therefore when we expect to see the data. And that's really all trials are, and without going on any longer, all clinical trials, for obvious reasons, are conducted in the blind. None of us know which patients are getting a Smartie and which of them are getting the active drug. So that's when, at the 18-month period, then we'll find out the data will be unblinded, and we'll find out then what the benefits of the drug are.
Excellent.
Okay, it sounds like a great story so far. What would be the risks that a new investor might be facing if they were to invest in Atxa? So what are the potential downside, if you like? I guess that's a failure of phase 2, but obviously you've got a good sight of that at the moment. So perhaps you can just give us a quick overview of what the risks are for an investor coming in right now.
Absolutely. So of course we're talking about if you consider the EWIS investor, firstly the risk is reduced because they have the 50% benefit on their revenue, but and also then we're keeping the price down as much as possible, maintaining. But that doesn't notwithstanding that, though, of course, that's not you're still your investment is still exposed to risk, and you know, we have already demonstrated the drug is very safe, well tolerated in 92 healthy volunteers. So we have de-risked that drug as much as we can possibly. And we've also, you know, chronically treated animals, which we have to do as part of our regulatory strategy. And the drug has been, you know, dosed in those animals at much higher doses than it would be used in the clinic without any adverse events. So again, we have de-risked it. And every element of the work that we've done so far has, you know, worked out really well for us, actually, without touching wood, and touching wood, I mean. But by and large, we have de-risked it as much as possible. We feel it is as secure an investment as any investment can be. Of course, every investment carries risks, and we would be remiss not to point that out.
Of course, absolutely. Fergal.
Yeah, excellent. Just on manufacturing, a question here. Have you developed the processes which will allow for the scaled up manufacturing of both the drugs and the formulated drug product?
Absolutely. Of course, that is a very important process that we have to be doing as we're going through the phase 2 clinical trial. So ALMAC in Northern Ireland are the expert team that build, that make the actual drug. In respect to the formulation, Catalent, our global drug formulators, they are actually making the drug Wegovy, which is, of course, the tablet that everybody's all excited about, the weight loss drug. Catalan are also making the formulating Wegovy for that. So these are leading world experts, and absolutely, Fergal, this is very much part of the regulatory approval process. And already we have shown our data to both the EMA and FDA when we applied there last year for the scientific advice, which we alluded to. So they've already seen this package and approval. We wouldn't get regulatory approval to start a trial without developing those processes.
Excellent.
Okay, I'm going to roll two questions together here. First of all, would you need to complete phase 2 before an acquisition? So that's the first question. That's the first part of it. And are you strategizing to more towards a company or a patent acquisition? If you are undercutting the current market drug by 50%, it would make more sense for a big pharma to acquire your drug, to take it off the market, and to carry on with their expensive treatment at the moment. How would you position yourself on both of those? So do you need to do phase 2 before an acquisition? And is it more, and that second one that I just said there?
Well, firstly, if I can take the second one through, the second is incorrect. So if I can correct that one. So the less, you know, the less it's about the cost of goods. The other drugs are priced higher because they're costing more to manufacture. Ours is costing lower, so the profit margin is probably higher for us. The cheaper then we can actually give it to a patient, the more patients are going to use it. So, you know, you can buy a box of chocolates at whatever, you know, so at different prices. So, you know, not, you know, without compromising on quality.
Sure.
So that's the first part. I hope I addressed that.
Yeah, so you did. And the first bit of the question was completing phase 2 trials before acquisition.
Well, not necessarily, but again, from an investor point of view, that's when your money is really going to realize.
So do you think an acquisition is likely post phase 2 or pre phase 2?
Post, because demonstrating efficacy or effective a drug in a patient is really where the value is. Of course, we have already huge valuable commercial asset as it is, with large patents and all that. So we are unique in that we invented our drugs and molecules. So we own those molecules, unlike other companies who typically in-license.
Very good. Okay, listen, Fergal, I don't think we're going to have time for another question, but we have many of them here that we will get answered offline, and we'll publish them onto the platform. But so just to wrap up then, so Atxa, proven asset, having successfully brought NTP 42, its lead drug, from discovery through to completion in 2 clinical trials. Atxa is now valuable phase 2 ready asset, ready for testing in patients. Multiple potential returns on investment. We're talking greater than 10x potentially with an acquisition from one of the 4 big companies that were mentioned in the presentation there. the platform of Atxa's asset as well. Not only does it address the PAH, but it also can actually be used in a wider range of drug usages as well. The global patent estate that Therese mentioned a couple of times there, with 16 patents granted already. And of course, the team, which is significant here, with multiple PhDs and a wide range of skill sets across the team there to hopefully bring this product through its successful phase 2 clinical trials and to acquisition, and in a time frame that isn't very far away. I would believe as well. But anyway, that's for another day. But Therese and Catherine, many thanks for your time and presentation, and we will move on to Digital Gait Labs. So thank you very much, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Digital Gait Labs. And gentlemen, welcome to the presentation. And I see all three of you are there, which is brilliant. So Digital Gait Labs is a groundbreaking digital gait measurement solution. It provides clinicians with a standardized objective gait analytics using a standard smartphone. It replaces the current observational and subjectiveness of the assessments that are commonplace in the clinical settings at the moment. Digital Gait Labs has been, Spark has been monitoring the progress of Digital Gait Labs for a couple of years now, and we're delighted to bring them onto the platform. So Aidan, Larry, and are very welcome into the presentation here. So Dr. Aidan Boren, so Aidan has a PhD in computer science. He has 10 patents to his name and over 20 publications to his name. He's a seasoned inventor, an innovator with over 20 years of experience in collaborative research and development roles across the telecommunications industry, and was a senior researcher at Bell Labs. Larry, a seasoned financial executive with extensive experience in the technology and healthcare sectors, formerly Group Financial Director and Country Manager for Phillips Island. You're very welcome. And I know you've got your colleague there as well, sitting there, who is coming from his clinical kind of work, and you're very welcome as well. So guys, if you would please start your presentation, go through the deck, and I will see you in 12 minutes, and we'll go through for Q&A. So just to remind everybody, please put your questions in the Q&A format, and we'll pose those to the team when we come through. So thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Chris, and welcome to everyone on the call. My name is Aidan Boren, and I'm the founder and CEO of Digital Gait Labs. I'm joined by Larry Keaveney, who is our CFO, and Professor Sean Kennelly, who is our clinical director. And we'll, over the next 8 or 10 minutes, we'll describe a bit about our journey, our product, and our business. So at Digital Gait Labs, we've invented and brought to market a groundbreaking AI-driven mobile-based gait analytics platform. And Gatekeeper is used by clinicians in any location and at any time, and it's used to standardize the measurement of gait analytics without the need for wearable sensors, mats, or multiple cameras or complex setups. It addresses a very important clinical unmet need for a decision support system for gait analytics that replaces the current observational approach. So fundamentally, Gatekeeper transforms your mobile phone into an easy-to-use, portable digital gait lab. So this is key because your gait is a very well-established biomarker in healthcare. It's widely used. It's adopted as a global standard in 2022 for falls risk assessment, and it has strong predictive and prognostic features. The fundamental problem, although Gait is a powerful tool, is that it's difficult to measure in real-world clinical settings. And I'll briefly pass you to Professor Sean Kennelly, who will give a little more color on the value of Gait as well as the problem.
Thanks, Aidan. So when I started working with Aidan and the team 4 or 5 years ago, the challenge we had was we have this incredibly predictive biomarker, which is how fast we walk, which is really, really good at predicting our falls risk, how likely we are to fall, which is one of the most expensive adverse consequences that can happen within the health service, but also expensive from the point of view of the impact and quality of life. But also how fast we walk predicts our frailty, our illness likelihood, the likelihood that we'll end up in a nursing home. It predicts operative risk. So the slower we walk before an operation indicates post-operative risk. And also, very interestingly, it predicts our likelihood of developing cognitive decline or dementia over subsequent years. So despite knowing this from multiple references within the literature of how important how fast we walk was, we had no means of measuring it accurately. So within clinical practice, myself and colleagues were unable to do this in a fashion that was reliable. And that's because it required either tapes to be stuck down onto the floor. It required the same individual to be available to do it. And it was and having a stopwatch. It was just a very, very inaccurate means of doing it. And similarly, all of the other kind of technical solutions to it either involved a sensor map, which was impractical for a clinical space, or a Vicon room, which is, uses multiple cameras, is expensive, and the data is very difficult to extract. Or else it involves the patients wearing sensors, which yet again in a clinical setting isn't very practical. And also, as we're measuring over time, those sensors can fall. So we knew that Gait was what has often been coined the sixth vital sign. And it's a vital sign because we know it's so predictive of so many adverse outcomes. And we have a very standardized way of being able to measure it, which is looking at the speed at which somebody walks over 4 meters. And we have established norms. So I know what somebody over 80 who's a female, how fast they should walk in meters per second. So we have these established, data set already that we know exists. And yet we were unable to put that into operation. So the challenge is how do we make an accessible digital means of measuring how fast we walk, this really important biomarker, so that it can be tested anytime, anywhere, by anyone. And this was the solution that we've worked on for the last few years.
Thanks, Sean. I'll just come back briefly just to, in reality, I suppose there are two approaches. There's the observational approach, which Sean mentioned, which is essentially a stopwatch, so that's subjective. Then there's the technical solutions, which are super expensive. And in reality, none of these have the key features needed to scale in clinical settings. And the features that are important are the standardization of the protocol for recording, the objectivity of the data collection, that it's easy to use in a multiplicity of locations, and that you can scale to the different settings in healthcare. So enter Gatekeeper. So Gatekeeper is our solution, and it's the result of 5 years research and development with a multidisciplinary team spanning academia, the clinical domain, as well as the technological domain. The technology was validated in Dublin City University using their 3D Vicon system, and also here in Tallaght University Hospital using the current clinical gold standard pressure mat system called Gait. Gatekeeper is different because it leverages artificial intelligence and augmented reality, and it provides 20 precise gait measurements, and this includes speed and stride length, flexion or angle, as well as step dynamics. Gatekeeper is unique in the way it fuses augmented reality and AI, and this provides a really novel and unique experience for the clinicians. So clinicians use our app, our augmented reality app, to set up a digital gait lab wherever they want within seconds. The AI model then does all of the heavy lifting. It computes 25 points, joint points on the body 60 times per second. And it does this as the video from the video recording. So using this spatial and temporal fingerprint of the motion of the patient, we can produce a range of easy to consume analytics and reports, and these are available either using an enterprise installation or a cloud installation. So I'm just going to play on the right-hand side. Just a quick look at the app itself. So this is the AR switching to the AI. So the AR is placing all of those markers on the floor, and the AI is computing all of the gait geometry of the person. One of the interesting things is then presenting that information longitudinally, which is most important in terms of understanding the change over time. So Gatekeeper fundamentally takes a mobile phone and transforms it into a digital gait lab for universal access. I'm going to pass you over to Larry Keaveney now to talk about the market and business traction.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. In terms of the market size, we've calculated that there's a 1.4 billion opportunity across the EU, UK, and USA, and most of this will be on a recurring revenue basis. Healthcare trends are providing a helpful tailwind for us because there's a growing emphasis on connected care, digital health solutions, and cost efficiencies in clinical settings, which is driving demand for accessible, accurate mobility data. We're targeting a 2.3 million plus profitable business within 4 years, with potential for further accelerated growth as clinicians become aware of Gatekeeper's objective gait assessment platform. The company in 2025 will scale up in Ireland across a range of care pathways and care settings. The clinical and commercial proof points will then be used to enter the UK and selected EU markets in 26 and the USA in 27. Our sales model is based on selling annual licenses. The company is already generating revenues via licensing agreements in 8 clinical areas in the Irish healthcare system. Gatekeeper is a CE-marked Class 1 medical device. The company in 2025 will scale up in Ireland across the range of careways as mentioned. The clinical and commercial proof points will then be used to get into other markets. We have so far secured 750k in R&D funding to support the development and the validation of Gatekeeper, including the trials held here at Atxa University Hospital. Digital Gait Labs has already generated 50k of revenues, and the business plan projections are close to 200k for 2025. We've secured an excellent channel partner in Unifar Health, which now dedicated resources to sales and marketing of the Gatekeeper product portfolio. They're currently building a strong sales funnel. We've peer-reviewed clinical validation papers published in the Sensors Journal, in the EU Geriatric Conference at Lisbon 2024, and the 12th International Syncope Training Day held recently at St. James's Hospital, Dublin. US patent application was filed in 2024, and UK and EU patents are in progress since 2023. We've received regular inquiries via our website, and we're currently upgrading our website platform. We're marketing directly for testing purposes and generating sales, but we see the main business coming through our channel partners. The company will, in 25, will scale up and then move on into EU, UK, and then on into the USA. Our European expansion is as set out there with UK first, then Germany and Spain, and then the USA. Our financials. As I've said already, 750k has already been invested in R&D to get us to where we are with our product solution today. We have no short-term debt on the company balance sheet, although we have a CLN note from EI for 100k. The cash burn presently is circa 10k per month, and we had 48k in cash in the bank on the 1st of February 2025. Our financial projections then are sales, as I say, nearly 200k this year, then up to 500 plus K next year, over $1 million in 27, and 2.2 million plus in 2028, with investment then creating losses for the next 2 years, then moving into profit in 27, and then substantial profitability coming in 2028 and thereafter. In terms of competition, the vast majority of clinical gait studies, as Sean has mentioned previously, are based on observational approaches. This involves typically a clinician, typically a physiotherapist, observing the patient's gait and then taking notes of the subjective assessment. There's also technology solutions, but they're expensive, cumbersome, and not easy to use. For investment, investors can invest up to 300k for 13.04% of post-money valuation. There's no short-term debt on the balance sheet except for the CLN note, as mentioned. The 2 million pre-money valuation is underpinned by the 750k invested in R&D to date and the early revenue traction that we've achieved. Management believe that these growth numbers will prove very attractive to health informatics and med tech companies, and an exit of 10x to 20x return should be available for Spark investors. Enterprise Ireland will also be providing matching investment in this funding round. Digital Gait Labs investors will be eligible for 35% EIS tax rebates, thus de-risking the valuation entry point by more than a third. The likely exit strategy for Spark investors in DGL will be via a trade sale to global medtech companies or health informatics companies who are actually consolidating in this sector.
Thanks, Larry. We've assembled a multidisciplinary team, and they've been working on the project since 2019. The fundamental owners, our founders of the company, are myself, providing the technical background on AI, where my PhD and a lot of my publications and patents are. Professor Sean Kennelly is also a founder and our medical director and a recognized expert in geriatrics and well established in Ireland. Larry Keaveney and John O'Brien are formerly from Philips Healthcare, and John O'Brien is the former head of St. James's Hospital. We're supported then by a really brilliant set of advisors in falls, physiotherapy, as well as AI. The company has a 3 development team at the moment, and we're looking to build the team and add a business development manager, more developers, and customer support engineers. Our vision for Digital Gait Labs is to bring a Digital Gait Lab into every hospital, rehab centre, and care home. We want to make longitudinal gait assessment as easy as taking a patient's temperature. To do this, we think we can scale the company into the UK, the EU, and the US markets, introduce new products and adjacent healthcare pathways. Our technical roadmap is describing how we will introduce 3D model features, a B2C version, as well as an offline version of Gatekeeper. And fundamentally, Gatekeeper will transform the current kind of reactive healthcare model into a preventative one. So 10 reasons why we'd like you to invest, or we think you can invest in DGL. So the DGL team has the expertise to understand and bring the product to market. We've already secured significant R&D funding to bring us to the point where we're a Class 1 medical device. We're addressing a really important critical unmet need, and it follows very closely with where we see the future of healthcare moving. We've already generated revenues or proof points for the unmet need both in Ireland, and we've a really strong pipeline both in Ireland and in the UK for 2025. Uniphar Health are our commercial partners in terms of sales and have established a team in Ireland. We think it's a 1.4 billion opportunity on a recurring revenue basis. The technology is protected by a landscape patent at the moment, and we have another number of algorithmic patents in the works over the next year or two. There is expected a 10 to 20 return on investment should be achievable for investors. We're EIS qualifying, as was mentioned earlier, and we believe that this is a really important and exclusive opportunity to invest in a medtech innovation that's proven itself already and is looking to grow both in Ireland and globally. So thanks for your time, for listening to us today, and we'll pass back to Chris for any questions.
Guys, thank you very much indeed. Very good presentation, and thank you for that. We again have a good number of questions coming in, so let's fire straight into them. So, what is you mentioned this in your penultimate slide, but if you can just elaborate on this, what is the scalability potential of Gatekeeper in international markets? Perhaps you could just go through that and where you expect it to get to.
Okay, well, our solution is a digital connected solution, so it's potentially, once we roll it out in Ireland this year, we can easily get into the UK, EU, and into the US. And in relation to the UK market, we've already applied to get on the supply chain framework in the UK. So this is a preamble or a prerequisite for actually selling into the marketplace. So that's in train at the moment. So we see it as an easy run for us to get into other markets. So we believe it's very scalable.
Very good.
Excellent, gents. I have to commend you on the use case of AI and AR and the synergy of both, and that kind of leads me on to a question for an investor. Can you expand on the AI capabilities? So I understand the measurement and observation features, just trying to get my head around the AI benefits. So if you could elaborate a little bit on the tech side of it, there would be great.
Sure. So AI is really fundamental to the approach we've taken. So our AI essentially takes a video that's been recorded by a clinician of a standard gait assessment, and we break that video down and we compute 25 points, these joint locations on the body. So we've developed the AI model, which actually produces that. That's where a significant proportion of the R&D funding that we've spoken about went. And Professor Kennelly, to my left here, was involved in the validation of that key pointing algorithm. So what's it capable of? Well, it is providing a fingerprint or blueprint in spatial and temporal times of the motion of the patient as they walk through the scene. So any speed or event or time or angle we can compute. So for example, the slide mentioned flexion. What's that? It's angle. So I'll just use my arm as an example. So the 3 key points on our arm, in real time, we can actually compute the angle. So why is that important? Well, it's not that important for arm, but it is for hip. So for stroke recovery, for example, where left and right-sided needs to be balanced, a lot of the capability is there within the platform for developing that. So the AI and the AR fused together really give us the capability to produce, frankly, a bewildering array of potential for understanding different aspects of human motion. And just add that one of the areas that were the 8 clinical areas, one of the projects we're involved with is looking at motor neuron. So they're using Gatekeeper and this fingerprint to try and understand the biomechanics of change in motor neuron disease. And we're also about to start a similar project with an intellectual disabilities research group based in Trinity College. So lots of scope.
Excellent. Great use cases.
You mentioned Unifar, and I just wanted to kind of expand on the relationship that you have with them at the moment, and are there any other kind of partnerships that you have in the pipeline at all?
Yeah, well, our partnership with Unifar and specifically their subsidiary Cardiac Services, we've been working with them now for the last 2 years. They have a big presence in the Irish market in the medtech arena, sort of a lot of feet on the ground, sales feet. They've got project management, customer support. So they've all the things that we need to be able to provide this solution in the marketplace. They also have a very strong operation in the UK. So they're now actively selling in the Irish marketplace, and they're starting to do so in the UK as well. They also do have operations in Scandinavia. Our engagement with them so far is just in relation to Ireland and the UK, but they do then have operations in Scandinavia and Germany. So we'll be looking to that after we get traction in UK and Ireland.
Very good.
Brilliant. Excellent. And I think a question maybe for you, Sean, just regarding existing technologies and competitors out there. If you could just give us a kind of a breakdown of what's available in the market, what are the limitations, and why you stand out from the rest.
Yeah, so we're sitting at the moment in the Gait lab here in the hospital in Tala Hospital, and our ambition is that you won't need to be sitting in a Gait lab any longer. That this is something where we can bring the Gait lab to the person, and whether they're at home or whether they're in the GP surgery or whether they are here on a hospital ward. So the whole idea, which is of this kind of cumbersome scenario that we need to use here, which requires either a physiotherapist sticking down tape on the corridor and doing this on an observed fashion, which is very, very inaccurate, especially longitudinally when you might have different physiotherapists. So that's why we don't do it, because actually you can't depend on the results or depend on it being standardized. The other options then are with regards to these mats with sensors, which are very long mats, which require a special room like this to be rolled out into, which we have to bring people down to, and really aren't practical from the perspective. And you can see Dr. Borden is holding up the mat that we have here, and they're expensive as well. The other alternatives then is where people wear sensors, but the sensors often slip and the data is unreliable. And when we try to do it longitudinally, they don't work, even within clinical trials that we would be doing this in. And then the very expensive solution is the Vicon rooms, where you have cameras placed around a room and it's motion capture, which is what we validated, and it's probably the gold standard research means of doing it, but it's very, very expensive setup, and you need specific engineers then to download the data, which could take days to analyze. So this is a solution that kind of gives you immediate answers within 10-15 seconds of us doing this test. You get the gait speed back down to your phone and you get the gait analytics. So it's its accessibility and the speed at which we does it, and there is nothing on the market at the moment that does what we have.
I just add to what Sean said there, that one of the advantages of the route we took through academia initially was the access it gave us in DCU to their motion capture lab. So they have a Vicon system in there. It's a 2 or 3 million euro equipment with 2 permanent staff. And that's what we validated. And the Gait system here is a piece of clinical equipment, which we had access to as well. So our route through the innovation ecosystem in Ireland helped us greatly, and continues to help us in terms of validating features maybe in the future.
Very good. Right. Okay, guys, we've run out of time. So thank you very much for those. We've got a number more questions here that we could have asked you, but we'll, again, as I said to Atxa, we'll get those answered offline. So just as a quick recap, 2 million pre-money valuation, a possible 10 or 20x return on your investment if you, as the guys said in their presentation. This is a unique disruptive solution that, as Professor Kennelly was describing there, getting rid of this subjectiveness within the measurement, and also the cost of these very expensive gait labs that they have in hospitals. It's a technology which is exactly aligned to the global digitization of health, which is something that all health groups are looking to move to. It's patented, of course, and 5 years of technological development have gone into this already, and it would be very expensive and timely to actually replicate this. So there's a moat around this business already that exists there. And of course, it's a hugely experienced team, clinically, technologically, and business-wise as well. So all good reasons why you should invest into this business, which is now, of course, live on the platform, which only went live just before lunch today. So two of the best opportunities that Spark has ever had on its platform, that we believe. Very, very strong teams, very, very strong patented technologies here. And of course, you can go and invest in it right now. If, of course, you do want to have a one-on-one conversation with some of the promoters here, we can, of course, arrange that, and we'd be delighted to do so. So please do get in touch with either Fergal or Melissa or Gary or me, of course, to arrange that, and we'd be delighted to do so. So again, just to reiterate that both companies are EIS qualifying. Therese with Atxa is 50% EIS, and because of the revenue already generated for Digital Gait Labs is at 35%. So yeah, we'd be delighted to receive your investments. The companies would be delighted to receive your investments, and we look forward to speaking to you over the coming weeks and months on this as well. So I said I'd be finished at 2 o'clock. It's now 2 o'clock. So thank you very much for everybody's time, and we look forward to speaking to you again soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.